the people that have preceded me have spoken a little bit about paper-based records. And when we first started looking at GDPR, it was a surprise to us at Kofax that the difference between the Data Protection Act and GDPR was that paper-based records were something that are now included, and you need to understand what customer information you hold within those to affect these data portability, forgetting, deletion of data, and so on and so forth. And so I'm going to talk very much about paper-based archives, but to be honest, lots of us have already digitised those, and I'm going to talk a little bit about if you have digitised those, do you have real insight into them? And a bit more about inbound communications, because customers are sending stuff to us as insurers on a daily basis. So I've got a great image to kick us off, and somewhat dated by the shoulder pads, pen and phone here, but this is a reality for some people. They still have huge archives of data, and as I say, getting insight into those is a significant problem. But documents are diminishing, but there is a rise in emails, and I'm going to touch upon those as well, and how we handle those, because they're sort of the lowest common denominator of digital communication. So I started looking at emails, and as I say, documents are diminishing, but emails by far and away are increasing. Now, this report from the Riccardi Group was pointed from multiple web sources, and you can see there that the business emails that are sent and received per day are in the level of 2017 of 120 billion per day. And I don't know if you guys can attest to that this is a growing problem. And one of my colleagues turned around to me and said it's the cockroach of communications. It's just, you're not going to stamp it out. You need to be able to deal with this kind of thing. So moving on, and I think this is the sentiment that my colleagues and I took for this event today. There's a groundswell of information around GDPR and people saying, if you haven't started, what are you going to do about it? And I think the surveys are a great start to that. But we want to be able to give some sort of practical advice to hit on some of the salient points of GDPR and how technology or organisers such as us can help. So I'm just going to walk through some of the things that we do at Kofax that can help with paper-based records and some of the other communication methods that I mentioned. So if we're dealing with a paper-based archive, well, obviously the first step in that process is you've got to capture that, you've got to scan that in, and that's the step one. And I'm guessing as many of you that have already done that, and got some metadata about what these documents are, but have you really got insight into the customer information that's embedded in those records? And I'd like to suggest a process by which Kofax can assist with that if you're not doing this already. So just walking through these various steps, so these are the key steps that we advise to take through on these documents. So first up, classification. A massive part of our solution is, do we understand what we're looking at in either this archive or stuff that's coming into us? And that's not a binary decision. That's not, okay, this is a change of address letter or this is a medical record. It's a little bit more organic than that. It's saying, well, we're pretty sure, we're about 90% sure that this document that's come into us is a change of address, or it's a proof of no claims, or whatever it might be. If the system's unsure, then it will push it to someone to review and say, we're 80% sure it's this, can you just verify? And that's just a tab or a click-through process, or they might have to reassign it into a different bin, or just say, no, delete it, it's an empty page, for example. And the reason we do that is for the extraction phase. So once we've classified a document, okay, it's a proof of no claims, or it's a change of address, medical letter, then we have frameworks to extract the data from that. So this is what I'm talking about, the key thrust of what I'm talking about today, is turning that unstructured information that's coming into us as an organisation and getting some structure out of it. So there's two steps we can do at this extraction phase. You say, okay, let's get the customer record out, let's get the claim number out, let's get the address out, and then we've got a structured data file that we can then make available to our own systems. But we can also OCR the whole page and make that as a text layer above the digital document, so that when you do need to search over all your records, you can search for everything. So we've extracted. Now, we're not just talking about OCR here. There is the whole ICR concept. There are people that are still filling out forms and sending them into our business, and there are people still writing handwritten letters. So a machine can only really be good as a human, and someone said it to me, it's like looking at a document and squinting. If you can read it as a human, then we can do a pretty good job of that. But we can't get 100% every time. So you need to push that into someone to look to correct that. Just look at maybe some of the errors of that we have there and make the various changes. And so the point I make here is what we are aiming for is straight through processing. We want to point this system at the documents and get stuff straight out. But obviously, the world's not built that way. So we will have to undertake some of these steps. And the last stage is validation. So they've sent their claim number into us, but that doesn't exist in our system. They've got a key wrong. So we can hook into various systems to validate that the information that's been sent in is correct. Or validation of dates, addresses, that kind of thing as well. So once you've done that, then we can start pushing that into the system of record, whatever that might be. The policy claim admin system, your document management system, or what have you. But the benefit of going through these steps on a paper-based archive is now you've got everything potentially as a searchable PDF with all the permitted content that you're allowed to hold index, and permitted is a key point here. It's classified, so by the type of document it is. So you then start creating some order based on that classification of, as I say, invoices and so on and so forth. Obviously, standard sort of metadata for storage and auditing purposes. A key aspect is deleting records that you're no longer allowed to hold. If you understand what the document is and when you received it, then you can start applying some of those retention policies and so on. And then automatic redaction, this ability to, at point of ingestion, understand the data you are allowed to hold and what you aren't allowed to hold. So straight at the front of the process is actually burning that off of the image, or routing for someone within the organisation that has a remit to look at that kind of stuff. So anyway, enough about paper. Oh, sorry, that's the slide next. So this is what we end up with, and this is a screenshot of SharePoint, but this can be any document management system in essence. But it's the kind of thing, this is what we're aiming for. From that big pile of paper, we want to be able to have everything separated into folders or libraries, the key metadata I mentioned a moment ago, and the ability to be able to search. So if you've got a subject access request, to be able to search under a customer record or address and then easily see all the information you hold about that particular customer, so you can effect a deletion or pull that data out to pass on to a competitor because that's something that's going to be asked of. You've then got the ability to do that. And as I say, everything there is dated for retention, deletion, and so on and so forth. So it's giving you insight now into those unstructured document piles. So as I say, once a solution such as this is configured for paper-based, or even if you don't have paper coming into the business, and you may have already have what I call a dumb archive, something you've got no insight to, you just push it into the same process. The same goes for emails. People sending us emails in on a daily basis, or you've got an archive of email with PDF attachments, Word attachments, whatever it might be. You can push that into exactly the same process. And I think this presents an opportunity, and I think if you listen to the Independent Commissioner's Office, they're reiterating this, that GDPR isn't just a milestone that we have to reach for the 25th of May, it's going to affect our business on a go-forward basis. So looking at technologies like this and how we might be able to enhance going forwards, obviously you've got something in place on a go-forwards basis for communications that are coming in. But also, there's other technologies where you can leverage mobiles, push this technology out to a mobile device, so you can capture IDs, or you can capture proof of no claims from your insured mobile device, and then they can validate the information on the mobile device that goes straight through. So there's capabilities like that we can consider here. So. I spoke a bit about unstructured information. I think this is a change of address letter, if I'm right, or structured documents. But in essence, these are the kinds of things that we see coming into our business. And the reason I'm showing these is that we've got a video that's going to run in a moment. So this first example is just checking the classification of a document as it's come in essence. So let's move it over to someone and say, look, we think this is a change of address, so can you just check, and can you check the information that's coming in? So this is our technology running a video recording about our technology. So this is our customer, Terry Enfield, and we're just double checking the document on the right hand side. Yeah, it's done the extraction pretty well there. So it's 91 Waldorf Street. So we can do a lookup, and this is a link to your own policy admin or claims management system just to check that he is a customer and the data that's on that document is correct about him. It all checks out. Then the other fields we want to get are his new address, and it's done a pretty good job there again of getting the data for that address. But again, you can use other lookup services just to make sure that address is valid. So it is, if not, it can correct. Obviously, as I say, we want to try and push this stuff straight through, but that doesn't make great for demos. So we're just sort of showing if we were to get an error or something. So once if we don't know the customer, so in this example, you can see where they've put an address on the document in a bit of a weird format. This wouldn't be where we expect it to appear. So when you do have to get that data off, we make these interfaces as fast as possible to get that data extraction. So you see where you can click, or you can start typing the first few letters of a word. So it's cutting down the amount of typing, the amount of clicks, and so on and so forth to verify this data. And you can lasso and other various aspects. Just that move on and then I'll move on. Okay. So my last slide, something I want to leave you with. So some of you may be familiar with Kofax and some of the core capture and transformation capabilities we have, which is basically what I've been talking about today. We've got 20-odd thousand customers globally using this technology today already, and not least in part to DCS, who's a diamond partner of ours, and many of those are DCS clients, of course. But really what I've spoken about in terms of what we call our digital transformation platform is that first blue box over on the left-hand side. We do have a huge amount of capability around case management, workflow, business process management, also huge buzz in the industry at the moment, robotic process automation. You saw those lookups to internal systems. You might want to reach out to external web sources to enrich data and so on and so forth. So we have a platform that integrates that kind of capability. And also interacting digitally. When you're conversing with your customers, are you doing that in a compliant manner? Is the data that's going into those outbound communications compliant? So we have a robust tool to drive that process of outbound communication to ensure things are compliant, not just in terms of GDPR, but in terms of corporate compliance and branding compliance. And then obviously the whole digital platform, what we don't really want to do is printing any documents out and signing them. Then we have an electronic signature capability as well. Last but not least, just want to touch a little bit on analytics, that we have dashboards over the whole capability here. So, when you get an audited and saying how your processes are running, are they compliant? And that's a great tool just to surface up. This is what we're receiving in our business. This is how we're handling it. And you can see the result there in our document management system or what have you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.